Hi all. For upcoming classes, I need your support. So please share and subscribe the channel. Sociology of Education, M.Ed 3rd semester TNTEU. Syllabus oriented class. Unit 4 Education and Democracy. First of all, I will discuss about education for socially and economically disadvantaged section of the society. And finally, I will explain major recommendation of NEP 2020 for the empowerment of socially and economically disadvantaged group. So today's class, I would like to begin with education for socially and economically disadvantaged section of the society. In India has been making notable progress in all fields. There are many population groups that are till today discriminated both socially and economically. They are not able to participate freely and fully in the development process. They are known as disadvantaged group. Scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward class, women, disabled and rural population. Education being the most effective instrument for socio-economic empowerment of the disadvantaged group. Every individual in our nations need equal support for maintaining human rights. Any denial of these individual rights due to their customs, social, economic and cultural perspective that will make disharmony in the society. Due to this disharmony, it will affect the development of the society as the whole, and it also have a direct effect on right to life and dignity of the people. Such deprived people are generally referred as disadvantaged groups or disadvantaged communities. Due to this denial of human rights, the people are discriminated and they are not able to participate freely and fully in development process. Since ancient times, they were the main target of advantaged section of the society. During British period, they were called as depressed classes. The disadvantaged section of society constitutes the part of population which is denied. They have no opportunity to fully explore and utilize its abilities and enjoy a quality of life. According to Kothari Commission 1964-66, for building up a democratic society, the exploitation of the weak should be minimized. It should be minimized through equality of educational opportunities in terms of caste, tribe, disability, gender, and minorities. Government has taken numerous steps for improving the socio-economic and educational condition of the deprived sections. This includes reservation in education, reservation in employment, SC, scheduled caste. These people suffer from extreme social backwardness, extreme educational backwardness, and economic backwardness. These arising out of age old practice of untouchability. They suffer from untouchability and others account of lack of infrastructure facilities and geographical isolation also suffered this group who need special consideration for safeguarding their interests and for their accelerated socio-economic development. People suffer discrimination in education, healthcare, housing, property, and freedom of religion. They also suffer free choice of employment and equal treatment before the law. Scheduled caste children also face continuous hurdles in education. In olden days, they are made to sit in the back of classrooms and suffer verbal and physical harassment from teachers and other students. The effect of such abuses is confirmed by the low literacy and high dropout rates for SC. Scheduled castes are the lowest position in the social hierarchy due to social and cultural structures. SC women face problem of gender discrimination with their higher caste counterparts, problems related to their caste and ethnic background, extremely low levels of literacy and education, heavy dependence on wage labor, discrimination in employment and wages, heavy concentration in unskilled, low paid, and sometimes hazardous manual jobs. Women face violence and sexual exploitations. The National Policy on Education 1986 recommended the following measures for the education of scheduled caste. Incentives to SC families to send their children to school regularly till they reach the age of 14. Constant monitoring to ensure enrollment, retention, and successful completion of courses. Requirement of teachers from scheduled caste. Facilities in hostels. Locating schools, balawadis, and education center in such a way as to facilitate full participation of scheduled caste. Constant innovation in finding new methods to increase participation. Next is ST, scheduled tribes. India has many tribal communities and they want mix with other main societies and characterized into scheduled tribes. Historically, they have suffered from isolation, exclusion, and underdevelopment due to their different ethnic identity from mainstream Indian society. And due to them having a distinct culture, language, social organization, and distinct economy, they generally practice hunting, food gathering, shifting cultivation, and inhabit in river valleys and forest regions. As a result, they are considerably deprived and have maintained uneducated for generations. Scheduled castes are mainly landless with little control over resources such as land, forest, and water. This community generally comprise large proportion of laborers working in agriculture, casual work, and industries, etc. This has resulted in extreme poverty, low level of education, poor health, lower access to healthcare services among these people. Just like scheduled caste, most of these community members belongs to poorest strata of the society. The scheduled tribes also in general face severe level of discrimination and deprivation in the Indian society. For ST, measures suggested were establishing residential schools on a large scale, encouraging educated tribals to take up teaching in tribal areas, educational instructional materials in tribal languages at initial stages, priority to open primary school in tribal areas. After independence, Government of India has taken number of steps to strengthen the educational base of persons belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. National Policy on Education 1986 and Program of Action 1992. The following special provisions for SC and ST have been incorporated in the existing scheme of Department of Elementary Education and Literacy, Secondary and Higher Education. Relaxed norm for opening primary or middle schools. A primary school within 1 kilometer walking distance from habitation of population. Abolition of tuition fees in all state in government schools at least up to upper primary level. Most of the states have abolished tuition fees for SC/ST students up to the senior secondary level. Incentives like free textbook, uniform, stationaries, school bags, etc. for these students. The Constitutional Bill 86 Amendment notified on 13th December 2002 provides for free and compulsory elementary education as a fundamental right for all children in the age group of 16 to 14 years. We already discussed in previous video about Article 21A, free and compulsory elementary education as a fundamental right. Please go through it. Government launched a new scheme, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, in 2001-2002, is a historic stride towards achieving the long cherished goal of universalization of elementary education. Through this time-bound integrated approach in partnership with states, SSA, which promises to change the face of elementary education sector of the country, aims to provide useful and quality elementary education to all children in the 6 to 14 age group by 2010. Other backward class. Other backward class generally suffer from disadvantages and disabilities which are as old as Indian civilization and derive their origin mainly from caste system. The backward class in India are considered socially, economically, and educationally as among the most backward section of Indian society. Low status, poverty, illiteracy are the common social problems which they have inherited as the virtue of them being born in a low caste. For OBC, the recommendation in NEP 1986 were incentives to all educationally backward section of society, particularly in rural areas, providing institutional infrastructure in hill and desert district, provide institutional infrastructure in remote and inaccessible areas. Women. Kothari Commission 1968 recommended education as the tool of social development. By pacing women education in they can achieve the goal of social development. Women education will help to solve many issues faced by our society. Women is a part of underprivileged section of the society. Education will help to close a gender gap in our society. Co-education institute will help children to give respect to female. It will bring economic gains and not only to women but also to raise the GDP of our country. A well educated woman will have more chances to make better decisions for her family health. Studies have shown that increased literacy among women will bring down the infant mortality rate. Education will improve chance of employment for a woman. A well-educated woman has more chance of getting better employment and better standard of living. As a developing nation, India strives for growth in each sector for all sections of society. Education is a way to achieve this goal. Education is a powerful tool for women emancipation and empowerment. For long, woman has been deprived for her rights. By educating herself, she can achieve a place in society. Education will create awareness among women, which will cause increased participation in politics, which ultimately lead to strengthening of democracy. They could secure their rights through mobilization. Government schemes to encourage women education. Sakshar Bharat Mission for Female Literacy, which will launch in 2008 for promoting adult education, especially among women, under which Loga Shiksha Kendras were set up. Sabla Rajiv Gandhi scheme for empowerment of adolescent girls. It aims to provide nutrition for growing adolescent girls by provision of food grains. National Program for Education of Girls at Elementary Level, NPEGEL. It is for reduction in school dropouts by giving special attention to weak girls. In villages, women's groups are formed. These groups follow up and supervision on girls' enrollment and attendance. Mahila Sangh. Under this scheme, Women's Forum were created. It provides space for rural women to meet, discuss, ask questions, and make informed choices, and it is implemented in 10 states. Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan RMSA. It will provide infrastructure for girls' hostel for secondary education. Dhanalakshmi scheme. Conditional money transfer scheme for girl child following in three conditions: at birth and registration of birth, progress of immunization and completion of immunization, enrollment and retention in school, support the training and employment program. These schemes provide adequate education and uplift women to be self-employed or budding entrepreneurs in various sectors. This scheme is open to women above the age of 16. Next topic is disabled. The NEP 1986 envisaged some measures for integrating of children with physical and mental handicap with the general community as a equal partners, preparing them for their normal growth and development, and enabling them to face life with courage and life with confidence. UN Convention on Rights of a Persons with Disabilities 2006 that emphasizes the need of fundamental education policies shift to enable general school to include children with disabilities. The National Curriculum Framework on School Education NCF 2005 recommends the making the curriculum flexible and appropriate to accommodate the diversity of school children, including those with disabilities in both cognitive and non-cognitive areas. In 1992, centrally sponsored scheme of integrated education for the disabled children was introduced to providing educational opportunities for children with disabilities in general schools to facilitate their retention in school system. This scheme provides for facility to students with disabilities, including expense on books, stationery, expenses on uniform, transport allowance, reader allowance, escort allowance, hostel accommodation, and actual cost for equipments. The scheme also supported the appointment of special teachers, provision for resource room, and removal of architectural barriers in schools. Centrally sponsored scheme of SSA of 2001-2 had set a time-bound target for the achievement of universal elementary education, with zero rejection policy as its cornerstone. The program provided support for inclusion of children with disabilities in general schools at the elementary level. The SSA norms were further strengthened by Right to Education Act 2009, which talks about free and compulsory elementary education to children without any discrimination on the basis of caste, gender, and disabilities, etc. The Right to Education Act mandates inclusion of children with special needs. Some children with special needs are unable to attend school despite specific interventions designed for their education. The amendment of RT Act in August 2012 has included children with special needs in the definition of disadvantaged groups. It includes children with severe multiple disabilities with the right to opt for home based education, thus creating an enabling environment for the children. Another scheme for children with special needs is inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage, which was implemented to enable all children and young person with disability to have access to secondary education and to improve their enrollment, retention, and achievements in general education system. Under the scheme, every school has proposed to be made disabled friendly. The centrally sponsored inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage aimed at enabling all students with disabilities completing 8 years of elementary schooling and an opportunity to complete 4 years of secondary schooling in an inclusive and enabling environment and provided educational opportunities and facility to students with disabilities in general education system at secondary level. The integrated scheme on school education aims to look at education of all children, including children with special needs, in a continuum from pre nursery to class 12. The scheme will cover all children with special needs with one or more disabilities as mentioned in the Schedule of Disabilities of Right of Person with Disability Act 2016. Target group. The scheme will cover all children from pre-nursery to senior secondary stage studying in government, local body and government aided school with one or more disabilities as defined under Right of Person with Disability Act 2006, namely blindness, low vision, leprosy cured person, hearing impairment, locomotor disability, dwarfism, intellectual disability, mental illness, autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, chronic neurological conditions, specific learning disabilities, multiple sclerosis, speech and language disability, thalassemia, hemophilia, sickle cell disease, multiple disabilities including deaf blindness, acid attack victims, and Parkinson diseases. Rural population. Article 21A of Constitution of India envisions primary education as the fundamental right. A few initiatives that the Indian government has taken to improve education in rural India are as follows. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan 2001-2002 aims to universalize elementary education in India by ensuring that all children in the ages 6 to 14 years receive free and compulsory education. It focuses on increasing enrollment and improving the quality of education in rural areas. Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan RMSA launched in 2009 aims to improve the quality of secondary education in rural areas by providing additional financial and technical support to states. National Program of Education for Girls at Elementary Level NPEGL, already mentioned in Women's section, launched in 2003, aims to improve the enrollment and retention of girls in schools in rural areas by providing additional resources and support to schools and communities. Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya KGBV, launched in 2004, aims to provide quality education to girls from disadvantaged backgrounds by setting up residential schools for girls in difficult to reach rural areas. These schools provide free education, uniforms, books, and other material to students. According to Article 21, primary education is a fundamental right. Reimagining and upgrading rural education in India To achieve the vision of accessibility, quality, and level of playing field is the need of the hour. Achieving this will be possible with a policy of uniformity in academics and infrastructure and establishing standards for schools across the board. Providing resources for education is managed through expenditure per child. Establishing standard for teaching staff, avoiding multitasking and multi-grade teaching. Mandatory transportation facilities are financed through RTE. Now let's see some of the major recommendations for the empowerment of socially economically disadvantaged group by NEP 2020. So, a socio-economically disadvantaged group can be broadly categorized based on gender identities, socio-cultural identities, geographical identities, socio-economic condition. Gender identities, particularly female and transgender individuals. Girls now facing challenges like child marriage, gender based violence, household chores, poverty, rituals and customs, malnutrition, honor killing, sexual abuse, girl child trafficking, distance from home to school, socio-cultural identities such as scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and OBC and minority. SC, ST, and OBCs are facing many challenges like poorer financial background, language barrier, caste based discrimination, parental occupation based discriminations, etc. Geographical identities such as students from villages, small towns, and aspirational districts. Disabilities including learning disabilities. The challenges faced by disabled are pre-assumption on part of the teacher that child with special needs lack academic abilities. Teacher also blame parents for the poor academic performance. Lack of disabled friendly toilets and ramps, non-flexible curriculum, etc. And socio-economic conditions such as migrant communities, low-income households, children in vulnerable situations, children of victims of trafficking, often including child beggars in urban areas and the urban poor. Recommendation in NEP 2020 to address the educational needs of socio-cultural identities like SC, ST, and OBC. Direct cash transfer and special scholarship. Funding for alternative forms of education. Inclusive culture of regular schools. Reinventing distance learning. Mother tongue as a medium of teaching and learning. Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas and Kendriya Vidyalayas in aspirational districts, where 1 year of early childhood and care education will be integral for Kendriya Vidyalayas, particularly in marginalized areas. Bridge course to mitigate the learning gaps of children belonging to marginalized section of the society. Equity based school and classroom culture where every student, irrespective of background, feel included in the classroom. Special hostel for boys and girls in dedicated regions for to reduce dropout rate among students of marginalized community. NCC wing specifically for students belonging to deprived section of society. These are the major recommendation of NEP 2020 for socio-cultural identities like SC, ST, and OBC. Educational issues of girl child. Upgradation of Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas from class 6 to 12th. Self-defense training for girls from upper primary to senior secondary. Establishment of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Avasya Vidyalaya. Acquisition of vocational skill. Enhanced commitment to Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign. Major recommendation of Right of the Person with Disability Act 2016 adopted in NEP 2020 to address the inequality faced by children with special needs. Equal education opportunities, equal opportunities for sports and recreation, accessible infrastructure, individualized support, accessible modes and means of communication, suitable pedagogical measures, desired modification in curriculum and assessment methods. Provision for scribe, exemption of child with special need from second and third language, training and employing teachers, teachers with a disability, teachers qualified in sign language and brainly, establishing resource center, provision of scholarships, promoting research to improve learning. The ultimate goal of socio-economic development has been to ensure that all sections of the society are enabled to be a part of the development process. All must have equal access to the outcome of development and equal opportunity for upward economic and social mobility. NEP 2020 proposal to set up special education zone. The special education zones in regions with a significant population belonging to socio-economically disadvantaged groups and aspirational districts. The ultimate purpose of establishing special education zones is to make education accessible in remote and far places in India. These are group of persons that experience a higher risk of poverty, social exclusion, discrimination and violence than other general populations. That concludes education for socially and economically disadvantaged section of the society. I hope all of you understand these topics. Thank you for listening and interest for my class. I need all of your support. Please share and subscribe. Keep learning. This is me, Salim.